Hello and welcome to another edition of Between the Rows. I'm your host this week, Manitoba Cooperator Editor Gord Gilmour. In this episode, we'll talk to Advancing Women in Agriculture Conference organizer Iris Meck.
We just didn't see women enough. We didn't profile women enough. We didn't recognize the contribution that they make to the agricultural industry. And that's really what's behind Advancing Women and why I created it.
Market watcher Phil Franz-Warkentin will fill us in on this logistics meltdown.
There's less to export, so it hasn't hit the ag sector to the same extent. So that's not necessarily a good news thing because, we'd rather have more to export.
And we catch up with Sandra Dick, a woman who has met the challenges of agricultural leadership.
Basically, anybody can get value out of this conference. Offers such a wide range of topics, from mental health to managing your farm to social media.
And don't forget, you can now find us on YouTube. Just search Between the Rows Podcast. Again, make sure to look for Between the Rows Podcast. There you'll find the latest episodes, plus our show archives, and even a few extras. In the meantime, we'll be back right after this word from our sponsors.
Part of being a farmer is being an accountant, and a mechanic, and a chemist. You have lots on the go. So FarmLink makes your grain marketing go further. We help you reach your financial goals with calculated sales decisions. No bias, just solutions and results. Plus, with our new app GrainFox, we bring every opportunity right to your fingertips. Literally. Start seeing the returns that'll get your family ahead. You've earned it. FarmLink. Your work is worth more. Get started at farmlinksolutions.ca.
And we're back. You're listening to Between the Rows, the podcast of Glacier Farm Media. I'm your host this week, Manitoba Cooperator Editor Gord Gilmour. Next week marks the start of the annual Advancing Women in Agriculture Conference. We're joined today by organizer Iris Meck, who'll tell us about why the virtual event should be on your agenda. Iris, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, it's a pleasure to be with you, Gord. Thanks very much.
So the 2021 Advancing Women in Agriculture Conference kicking off next week. What are some of the key themes that you folks will be exploring this year?
We're just so delighted to have women join us for the virtual conference that's starting on November 22nd and 23rd. It's a great program that emphasizes key leadership skills and development opportunities, including communications and mentorship, coaching, financial management, and independence is a really big topic this year. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about health, particularly mental health and stress and building resiliency. And then, of course, there's always the great lessons that we learn from our tremendous leaders in and outside of the ag industry.
And what, in your view, and I guess I'm asking for your personal view, are some of the important issues facing women in Canadian agriculture?
Well, I'm glad, Gord, that you ask it as my view, because I don't think we should talk about issues that women have in the industry. I think we should talk more about the opportunities. And there's tremendous opportunities today for women in agriculture, from university students crossing over the threshold and building a career in agriculture, from women being part of the farming operations in Canada, to women starting their own businesses in agriculture and food. I think it's a tremendous blossoming time for women in agriculture to have great opportunities, more than ever before. And there's always been opportunities for women in ag.
And now an event like this, how does that feed into providing those opportunities for women?
Gord, it's a tremendous opportunity for women to get together and network, building connections, building relationships, for university students to talk to some of the leaders in the industry that may end up being their employer. What a great opportunity for women that are feeling a little isolated today and always in the rural areas, for them to come together to meet women in other parts of the country, women in other parts of the sector, women in other parts of agriculture. So it's a tremendous opportunity for women to all come together.
Do you think that that's something that the sector's done a good job at becoming a bit more inclusive over the years?
Well, that's a real interesting comment, Gord. And this is probably why I started the Advancing Women Conference in 2014, because I've been in the industry all of my career. Since 1979, I've worked in the agricultural industry. I'm a farm girl from Manitoba. And I just felt that at that point in time, that we just didn't see women enough. We didn't profile women enough. We didn't recognize the contribution that they make to the agricultural industry. And that's really what's behind Advancing Women and why I created it, because I wanted to showcase the women in agriculture. I wanted to showcase the opportunities that are available in agriculture for women. And from that point on, I think that everybody saw a little bit of a different turn in the publications and advertising. More women were profiled in the graphics and the ads. All of a sudden, you started to see more stories of family farming operations as opposed to just the lead gentleman in the farming operation. And so I think that this conference has flipped the industry a little bit in realizing that women have always made a contribution to agriculture, and now we see more of them.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I'm going to switch gears a little bit here, and that is also part of your role at Glacier Farm Media. You organized the Farm Forum event coming off in early December. Hoping you might be able to give us a little preview of that event as well while we have you here.
Yeah, we're excited to present our second Farm Forum conference on December 7 to 9. And it's 3 days of speakers that are presenting information for farmers, certified crop advisors, and agrologists. The information is coming from top researchers, technology experts, and industry leaders that are going to give information on the future of agriculture and the information that progressive farmers and agronomists need to know in as far as crop management, nutrient management, integrated pests, soil and water management, and just the business of innovative farming.
Well, thanks so much for taking the time to tell us a bit about both these events, and best of luck with both of them.
My pleasure, Gord. Thanks so much.
That was Iris Meck, who founded the Advancing Women in Agriculture Conference. It runs next week, November 22nd and 23rd. For more information, you can visit their website at advancingwomenconference.ca. That's advancingwomenconference.ca. You're listening to Between the Rows. I'm your host this week, Gord Gilmour. Further to the conference, we caught up with one presenter at her farm. Sandra Dick farms at 4D Farms at Springsteen, Manitoba, and she's presenting on overcoming the challenges of leadership. Here's that report now.
Hi, my name is Sandra Dick, and I married a fourth-generation farmer here in Manitoba. We live near a village called Springsteen, and we farm. We have quite a diverse farm, my husband and I. We farm mixed grains, oil seeds. We're involved in forage seed production, so we have leaf cutters that go along with that. We have a layer barn with about 4,800 hens. So we're wide and a diverse farm here. So as a fourth generation farmer, I married 17 years ago, and we're almost 100 years old here on our farm. And it brings a lot of history, a lot of responsibility, and a lot of gratitude. And so my husband and I married about 17 years ago, and we have 3 children. And up until about 8 years ago, I actually worked in Winnipeg, and I was more of a supportive role here on the farm. I was involved in the community, raising my children, all sorts of things, involved in 4-H, you name it. And our farm, the 3rd generation, so my husband's father passed away unexpectedly in his 50s, and it brought a lot of transition, kind of unexpected transition for our farm. We had grown the farm to support 2 families and an employee. And so all of a sudden we were left kind of questioning everything. And so it was then that we decided I would leave my position in Winnipeg, which was in healthcare, and I would do more than just a supportive role, but I would actually take a main role on the farm and farm alongside my husband. Our mother-in-law is still on the farm and offers, support in way of childcare or field meals and that kind of thing. But other than that, my husband and I and 1 full-time worker do all the work on our farm. Like I said, it's pretty diverse. So we have lots going on, and not just in summer, but we have lots going on in wintertime as well. Our leaf cutter bees, which we have for pollinating our alfalfa seed in summertime, they require some work. We need to harvest that and deal with the nests and that kind of thing in wintertime. So that takes up a chunk of time in wintertime, as long as equipment maintenance, you name it. So when I say farm full-time, I farm full-time. I come to the farm every morning at 8:30 and I stay here until the kids get home from school. So it's not just when I choose to go to work. I got to go to work. There's livestock and there's things that are waiting for me every day. In the upcoming Advancing Women Conference here in Canada, it will be held virtually next week. And the reason that I have been asked to participate in the roundtable talk was our topic is stepping up, the challenges of leadership. I think the conference offers all people in the industry, whether you're a farmer, you're an industry rep, a banker that deals with agriculture, basically anybody can get value out of this conference. It offers such a wide range of topics, from mental health to managing your farm to social media to, I don't know, everything under the sun, I feel, is covered in those 2 days. It's a pretty intense 2 days, but it is so well done. And I encourage you to take a look. I thoroughly enjoyed last year as an attendee, and I look forward to this year being able to participate in the table talk. Okay, so the table talk session that I'm involved in this year is sponsored by Egg Farmers of Canada. It is held on the first day and for half an hour, and we're talking about the challenges of leadership and stepping into leadership roles. There's another woman, Susan from Alberta. She's an egg farmer in Alberta, and she'll be joining me in that. And then a staff member from EFC, Karen, will be moderating the conversation. We'll be talking about leadership. And so, and my personal experience, and then Susan's personal experience in stepping into roles. As I mentioned earlier before, my history is not in agriculture. My personal history is in healthcare. And I always kind of held a supportive role, even here on our farm, supporting my husband, my father-in-law, and participating kind of on a casual basis. I have stepped into a full-time position on the farm, and it's been great, but it's not something that I necessarily would have seen myself doing 20 years ago. In doing so, I have found like an incredible learning curve. I just love learning. I love talking to people, and I love the opportunities for personal growth. So Egg Farmers of Canada has many programs that they offer nationally to the provinces and territories, and they range from like young farmer programs to women in the egg farming industry. So they've provided a lot of opportunity for growth and for challenging ourselves in ways of, would we want to be a leader? What do we want to do? How to be an effective leader? And it's given me a little bit more confidence in gaining these roles. And so I never, ever would have imagined that I would be sitting on the Manitoba Egg Farmers Provincial Board. But I just got voted in this last March. And so my being asked to speak at this table talk was in relation to being asked to sit on the board table, around the board table. So I have always been a leader, whether it's in my community, being a 4-H leader, in my my church, being a Sunday school leader, you name it. I gravitate to those positions. And when I joined the agriculture world, I really felt lost a little bit because I couldn't take leadership. I didn't know enough. These guys have been doing it their whole lives, and I really didn't have the confidence to take on leadership roles. People in our industry have encouraged me along the way. I have an incredibly supportive husband that has supported me and encouraged me to be a leader. A couple of years ago, I got involved in advocacy within the egg industry, and it really filled the void of not having any coworkers or patients anymore on a daily basis. And it filled that void of human interaction, and it allowed me to advocate for our industry, for a specific commodity group as egg farmers, but also as a larger industry of agriculture. And also educate. Like, I've been able to become a leader and volunteer in the schools for agriculture in the classroom, which is another wonderful program. I feel that taking on leadership roles is really important. Like I said, I lacked a lot of confidence, and that's because an example would be the Manitoba Egg Farmer Board. In history, it has been all males up until a couple of years ago. And generally speaking, they are middle-aged, and a lot of them have been there for, 15 to 20 years. And so that's a really intimidating board to join, or to feel that I even had a part in sitting around that table. I think, though, I have come in taking leadership classes and in dealing with other individuals in agriculture, I see the benefit in for this being a women's conference. It talks about women stepping up. And I think it is important to have not only gender and age variation in leadership roles and on our industry board tables, but I think it also, what hit me was that our interests and our skills are also very different. So whatever gender you are, whatever age you are, our interests are all different. Sitting around our table, there's great communicators. There is more introverted people that really care about numbers. There are people that are very detail oriented. There are, policymakers. There are people like myself that are super interested in education and advocacy and that side of things. We all offer different things. And so in realizing that, it allowed me the confidence to step up into this role and to make myself vulnerable and put my name forward to run for the board. It has been an incredible learning curve. I'm very, very grateful for the opportunity. And I look forward to, continuing this personal growth and this journey.
That was Sandra Dick about the challenges of leadership, which she'll be presenting on at the upcoming Advancing Women in Agriculture Conference, November 22nd and 23rd. You're listening to Between the Rows, and I'm your host this week, Manitoba Cooperator Editor Gord Gilmour. We've all heard about the supply chain snarls of late, but what's that mean to agriculture exports? A fair bit in some cases, as it turns out. We're joined now by Phil Franz-Warkentin of Glacier Farm Media's MarketsFarm. He'll give us a bit of insight. Phil, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So we've heard a lot about supply chains melting down, and I'm wondering, is this hitting agriculture? And if so, how is it hitting agriculture?
Yeah, to maybe not to the same extent as some of the things we're seeing about not having Christmas presents in time for Christmas and things like that. And the time of year is maybe helpful for agriculture in some ways, in that imports for the ag sector is not as important at this time, but on the export side, definitely anything moving by container is having issues. So that's all your pulses and special crops that's all hitting that. I guess the one thing from the Canadian perspective is we had smaller crops overall this year, so our usage of exports, there's less to export, so it hasn't hit the ag sector to the same extent. So that's not necessarily a good news thing, because we'd rather have more to export, but that there is just the drought and the smaller crops out there means it's less of a impact the supply chain issues that are there. And yeah, like this has been going on for months, the supply chain stuff, and it's just been added in the past week with the whole weather situation out in BC.
So in terms of agriculture, then the big impact is containers. But a clogged port is a clogged port, and that must be hitting the bulk grain a little bit, at least. Then, hey.
Yeah, well, the as of right now, by all reports, there's nothing getting into Vancouver, right? So, and it, I imagine, I haven't heard exactly, but I imagine loading the vessels that are there and all of that is facing delays, and the big rail yards that are there in the Fraser Valley, which has hit the brunt of this. So to get the grain there, and then it's sitting there before it heads to the port. So it's definitely causing things to back up, and we'll see where it. I know the railways have said they're working on it and we'll get things moving again, but what can you do about the weather? And the roads are washed out or covered with landslides and all of that, and the same with rail lines. There's been derailments and things, so it's it'll take a while to sort out and unclog the get things moving as they should. But yeah, as I mentioned earlier, the fact that we have less grain to move overall is probably easing things somewhat, that situation.
Now, one of the things I saw recently was that the Baltic Dry Index, that's the index that tracks shipping costs, it's dropped. And that kind of surprised me, because it seems like everything else is going up. What does that mean in terms of shipping a crop, say, out of Western Canada and just bulk grain moving around the globe generally?
Yeah, well, from the Baltic Dry Index, yeah, it has come down, and general shipping costs have come down, and that is mainly to do with China. I guess, well, we're seeing a big congestion right now. Their congestion at their ports there has apparently cleared up a bit, and they're sitting on some large iron ore supplies, and they had issues with that earlier. But so Chinese port issues are not as of a big concern as they had been. So that's weighing on. They're a big, they're the big demand for lots of bulk commodities, so that has seen prices ease. Overall, yeah, the shipping rates have come down a fair bit, but if you widen the outlook, they're off their record highs, but they're still about double what they were last year at this time, and they're still historically strong. So it might be more of a correction. Things got too heated too fast, and now it's come down, and it's not looking as expensive, but it's still, in the bigger picture, still at the higher end of historical values. When it comes to Canada, when bulk shipping prices go down, that's generally beneficial for us. We're at a freight disadvantage into a lot of parts of the world. So if you think we're competing with Australia to send grain to Asia, Australia is a lot closer. So when the shipping rates go down, then we can be more competitive with them into a situation like that. So the cost going down is helpful for us, but as mentioned earlier, no matter what the cost, if we can't get the grain where it needs to be to ship it, then that's its own issue.
Well, thanks a lot, Phil. Much appreciate that.
You are welcome.
That was Phil Franz-Warkentin of MarketsFarm, running us through some of the transportation challenges ensnaring the globe. And that's another edition of Between the Rows. I'm your host this week, Gord Gilmour, saying so long, and we hope you'll join us again next week.
Part of being a farmer is being an accountant, and a mechanic, and a chemist. You have lots on the go. So FarmLink makes your grain marketing go further. We help you reach your financial goals with calculated sales decisions. No bias, just solutions and results. Plus, with our new app GrainFox, we bring every opportunity right to your fingertips. Literally. Start seeing the returns that'll get your family ahead. You've earned it. FarmLink. Your work is worth more. Get started at farmlinksolutions.ca.